20 worst crimes police have encountered, according to Reddit. Number 20. My dad has been on the job for 25 plus years and has had some crazy stories, but one of his friends has the absolute worst crime scene story I've ever heard. Back in the 90s, he used to work in a pretty shitty area in New York City. He routinely had some really messed up experiences. But the worst scene he ever came across was a noise complaint in a more residential area, as opposed to the projects where most of his calls took place. Neighbors called about this guy making all kinds of noise in his garage after hearing some screaming from the house earlier on. When they arrived and went to the door, no one answered. But then they opened the garage door, and there was this guy standing in the garage covered almost head to toe in blood, with blood all over the floor. He was screaming something about they had to die. They approached him, guns drawn, and he dropped whatever he had in his hands and they cuffed him. There were several garbage cans in the garage, and they both almost threw up when they opened them to find the guy's wife and 2 kids chopped into pieces and thrown in the trash, just filled to the top with bloody, chopped up limbs, torsos, and heads. I can't imagine responding to a noise complaint, expecting to tell a rowdy or intoxicated resident to keep it down, only to find a garage of garbage cans full of body parts. The guy kept on and on about how the family was being controlled by the devil and they needed to die. That's the part I remember most. Of all the crazy stories I've heard from the cops, this is by far the most horrifying. How you like that, Stripes?
Maybe this wasn't meant for my stream.
We'll wait till we get to the roasted baby one.
Ooh.
Number 19. I mean, where do you start? What do you mean by the worst? The saddest scene was a fire where a number of children died. There is nothing as sad or as disturbing as seeing a lifeless child. The most grotesque scene was an obese man who died on the toilet and fell forward onto the lino floor. He lay there for 3 days. We had to peel him off the floor. And what used to be his face and chest was now a large amount of maggots and goop. The scene that made me most angry was the home where the big fat husband had thrown his tiny wife around the place and put her head through the plasterboard of a wall. The sight of her cowering and him standing there laughing made my blood boil. Unfortunately, he violently resisted arrest. Fortunately, he violently resisted arrest. He didn't think he could be arrested in his own home. The most frustrating scene was the rape victim who was too afraid to name her attackers because they were connected to the IRA. The feeling when you can do nothing to bring such a heinous man to justice. Poor guy. Number 18. Not police, but my father was a detective in the middle of his career. He told me of a crime scene where someone had hacked up his wife's head with an axe. When they went in, the family's dog was licking up the blood and brain matter. Animals being bros. Jesus Christ. What, because he's cleaning up? You know what I mean? Is that edgy enough for you, Stripes? Number 16. Not a cop, but I am in college to become one. One of my professors at the time worked homicide as a lieutenant at the precinct and brought in crime scene photos all the time to show us on the projector. One was of a 17-year-old kid who'd had his head caved in on the early 2000s. It was a pretty big case in the time in Philadelphia. He worked construction part-time, walked home every Friday with a couple of $100 of cash for his pay. His best friends, 1 girl and 2 guys, all in the 16 to 18-year-old range, wanted to make a quick buck. The girl lured him to this regular meetup spot for sex out near some woods. When he started taking his clothes off, the 3 friends jumped in. I think I heard about this one.
I haven't. Keep reading.
The 18-year-old guy, if I remember right, had a hammer, and his brother had a cinder block. Kid didn't stand a chance. His parents had to identify him based on the clothes he was wearing because he was practically nothing left of his face or hands. You know? Wow. The brother got tried as an adult and got 25 to life, and the 18-year-olds got life. The girl got 15 for ratting out on the other two. Murder for $200 split 3 ways. You know what I mean? How many brain cells do these idiots have? A lot of people that commit crimes consider themselves having nothing to lose. You know what I mean? So, they're not thinking about anything. Number 15. I've seen some pretty gruesome murders and accidents. Saw a woman stabbed over 50 times. A guy whose head was completely caved in by the steering wheel. Plenty of suicides via shotgun to the mouth. The one that stands out to me the most wasn't fatal, and it wasn't even that gruesome. Some guy got high on PCP and thought everyone was a demon. An older woman, early 60s, was driving by and decided to fight. He decided to fight her? Pulled her out of the car and pummeled her face in, knocked her teeth out, bruised her face real good, gave her brain damage. Oh my God, better to kill her, man. Better to kill her than have her walking through life like a husk. She was conscious throughout the entire ordeal, and I was the first on the scene. It shocked me because she was minding her own business when this asshole decided to ruin her life. It was random and unprovoked. If I'm not mistaken, she had to quit her job due to memory issues from the brain injury. On top of that, we had to fight the guy for a good 3 minutes until we got him into custody. He was a big guy and got roughed up pretty good, but he was feeling no pain at all. My taser barely had any effect on him. We only got him into cuffs when 6 officers held him down and pulled his arms into place. He then proceeded to spit blood on us. Okay. Not a policeman, but I know a former forensic scientist. She described a case one time where a father of 2 didn't receive custody of his kids after a divorce. Oh no. He flipped out and kidnapped the kids. A homeless man handed in 2 plastic bags into a police station a few days later of body parts that had been cut up. She had to reassemble the kids' bodies so they could be identified. Stripes. Stripes?
I'm here.
Some assembly required.
Oh my God.
You're the one laughing. That's bad.
I'm not laughing.
What was that? The number whatever this is. Didn't see firsthand, but somehow, of the scene photos, 23-year-old guy was babysitting girlfriend's daughter while she was at work. The guy got drunk and raped the little girl. She was less than a year old. You wanted this read in your stream. You think you have any idea?
Thank you. You always know better than I.
The guy apparently realized how horrible he was immediately after because he put a bullet through his head. The mother came home from work to find her bloody baby in the boyfriend's lap with the contents of his head sprayed all over the baby and entryway. The little girl lived, but was in critical condition for weeks. The shitbag boyfriend had penetrated the girl's abdomen. Doctor was certain she'd never be able to have kids. She should be in high school by now, 15 or 16. Just goes on. My time to shine. Went to call for a dirty house with children in it, child abuse hotline. The door is open, but you can smell something really bad inside. We call the landlord and he lets us come in the property. Summary, roaches everywhere. I hit the TV accidentally and thousands of dead roaches fell out. The carpet was moving. Rats had tunneled under the carpet pad and you could see the floor wiggle. One of the bedroom's walls stunk really, really bad and my partner hit it with a baton. The wall collapsed and hundreds of dead mice fell out. The people had the water turned off, so they disconnected the toilet drain, just pooped into the hole in the floor. The basement was full of feces and old McDonald's bags and trash. The power had been off, so everything in the fridge was molded over and rotten. They had been peeing in the sink with no water to rinse it down, rancid milk in baby bottles. I mean, there were literally 40 or so bottles with milk in them. Really weird. Turns out the people had moved to a hotel, so we took the kids and placed them in foster care and set the parents up with drug court. I stripped down in my garage when I got home and just threw everything I was wearing away. Filthiest house I have ever been in. The landlord ended up donating it to the fire department so they could practice putting out fires. They poisoned the remaining mice first. Footnote, they had just thrown all of their garbage down the basement steps. They took the time to bag up the garbage and threw it down there. It was up to the ceiling. Well, apparently this is 2 stories. Shameless plug, since this place is a fucking graveyard on the front page. What does that mean? An officer who volunteers my work from time to time told me that his worst experience was during the first year of the job. Apparently, there was a car accident where the driver was wedged halfway out of the overturned car. Unfortunately, since the car was on fire, they couldn't help the man out and had to stand there and watch him burn to death while he screamed for them to help him. Well, a call goes out for reported screaming. It's mid-January, important later. My father and another office respond to find a known deranged individual. Very long rap sheet, has been in and out of psychiatric care for years. Sitting on the front porch holding a double-sided wood-splitting axe. Screaming in mid-January. Steam is coming up out of the grass, and there are chunks lying all over the lawn. Upon interviewing the suspect, he admits that he and a friend were playing poker. The suspect was losing nearly every hand and came to the conclusion that his friend was a ain't Southern for ghost and was cheating him. The suspect grabbed the axe and chased his friend outside and hacked him to dozens of pieces, thus causing the warm blood to create steam on the grass. My dad tells the suspect that he needs to get in the police car before it's ain't proof. Because it's ain't proof. He said the suspect dropped the axe and sprinted to get to the back seat while thanking them for helping him. Too long didn't read. My father convinced an axe murderer to get in his cop car because it was ghost proof. Fucking madman, dude. Quick thinking on his level. Little girl tells her school nurse it hurts to pee. This leads to her making statements indicating molestation. So they send her to the hospital and call me. Sane nurse confirms there is trauma to her vagina. Because she is a child, I cannot ask her questions. We set up a forensic interview with people trained to deal with this, so it's less stressful. But I can listen in while she is talking to the doctors. I hear her say, "When I'm bad, mommy and uncle bad touch," name changed for privacy, "stick fingers in me." So now I go find mom expecting to hear what?
Sorry. Fine.
Oh, so now I go find mom expecting to hear complete denial. Nope, she tells me as a form of punishment, she inserts fingers into her 5-year-old's vagina. Her brother who lives with her does it also. I wish I was making this up. Before you ask, the case was sent to the county prosecutor. I haven't heard anything from it since, which means she pled out, it was dropped, or it's still awaiting trial. My God, this one's been gilded 3 times. It wasn't all I ever saw, but certainly the worst. My career was effectively ended by a lady that got hit by a car. My career was effectively ended by a lady that got hit by a car, like it was too much for her. It basically ripped her whole face off except her eyes. Basically from the nose down. You could see her vocal cords. She was convulsing on the ground and a crowd of people were standing around her. I was first there, and she was still alive. There was absolutely nothing I could do for her at that point. It was obvious she was bleeding out. I got down on the pavement, cradled her in my arms, and told her she would be okay. While I tried to stop some bleeding, I knew I was lying, but I wanted her to not feel alone and scared. When she died, she passed out in my arms as the medics showed up. They worked on her for a bit, but they called it before the chopper landed. 2 weeks later, I quit. I've had severe PTSD since then. I drink a lot to self-medicate. I go to therapy. I've lost almost all my friends and several jobs. I take pills every day for depression. Sorry for the vivid description, but you asked. I can still smell it. I see it. The works. Yeah. There's a superhero here. It's a shame that she's walking around with the burden of that. Not a cop, but I did body removals for a private ambulance company I worked at. We got a call at 4 a.m. and our dispatcher asked us if we had 2 body bags. We did. We got there, and the gist of it was that it was a double rape homicide of 2 elderly women in their 70s. One was found with her pants around her ankles in one room, and the other was found in the bedroom down the hall with her hands pinned above her head underneath the bed frame. I have no idea if they ever caught the guy. I just pick up the bodies and take them to the morgue. Pretty messed up though. Fucking old people, man. Raping old people. What the fuck? Where's my phone? Give me a second. An older co-worker told me this one. A man lived in an apartment with his 3 kids and wife. He goes to work and comes home at night when one of his kids comes up to him and says, "I saw mommy kissing the neighbor's pee-pee." He slit each of his children's throats while they slept and cut his wife's head off. Left it on the kitchen table and smoked a cigarette, calmly calling 911 on himself. Said seeing the kids in their beds covered with open throats covered in blood fucked him up for a long time. Well, Stripes, a guy high on dust, aka PCP, went over to his adult sister's house right before they left for a family birthday party. As the family is picking the car up, the guy remains behind in his 7-year-old niece's bedroom, still high on the dust. His niece forgets something in her room and runs back upstairs into the apartment. As soon as she reaches the apartment, she hears a gunshot. She walks into her room and sees her uncle prone out on the floor, bleeding profusely from the back of his head, brains all over the bedroom wall. Family night calls 911. I show up, walk in and assume the guy is dead by the lack of movement and loss of blood, find the gun, make it safe, and out of nowhere hear a huge deep breath and see the guy's chest moving. With half of his brain blown apart, the guy was still alive for at least 10 minutes but unresponsive. Medics transported to the hospital where he died but donated his organs. In the end, the little girl who will live with that picture of her uncle for the rest of her life. It would be nice if you could take every kid out of every bad situation so they'd have a fighting chance to live a normal life. Added story. Suicidal female walks to the top of a 9-story hospital parking garage, does a backward swan dive off of the top trying to kill herself, ends up landing on both of her feet, which take all the impact. Every bone from her feet up to her first rib is shattered, but somehow she was still alive as I got there. First, looked like a slinky as EMTs picked her up from the ground to transport, which in the end was futile. But for the few minutes I was on the scene with her, I was able to speak to the woman who was still conscious. The most peaceful and eerily quiet concentration I had with a person who knew they were dead. Stripes, human slinky. She talked about her life, a family, and how she felt abandoned. She felt hopeless with no faith in life, just like a vicious dog backed into a corner. She wanted me to tell her family that she was sorry, but didn't regret her decision. Very stoic. Someone who was intent on killing themselves. No cry for help scenario. No, I want attention. No, I'm gonna do it. No, you're gonna let me do it? You're gonna let me do it? I'm gonna do it. Oh, Stripes. You okay?
I'm fine.
What, is this too edgy?
No.
Danish cop here. Some years ago, a coked-up driver hit a woman in central Copenhagen. She was hit about 120 kilometers per hour. While crossing the street with her boyfriend in hand, her body flew about 100 meters down the street. That's a lot of meters, Stripes. On second thought, I had removed parts of the description out of courtesy. Why? When the first patrol car arrived at the place of impact, the boyfriend was sitting beside the body and caressing her head. They had to be 3 officers to pull him away from the woman. They had to get. Or there had to. The driver was a well-known man that had done something close to this before. 2 underage Danish girls were in the back seat of the car that he hit her with. I ended up in a fight with one of them because she wouldn't stop phoning different people while we were still chasing the driver in the area around the car. Oh, and he could have killed about 10 people. About 20 seconds before he hit her, he drove through a red light at the busiest pedestrian crossing in Denmark. It was a certain time at Saturday, 100 hours on a Saturday night, and it was the night the Christmas beer was released. What? He got a sentence of 4 years and 6 months, the longest sentence in Danish history for a hit and run. Some countries got some crazy laws that don't allow people to stay in jail for too long for ridiculous shit. That's the lenient Danish prison system for you. Forgive me, moving on. I know a guy who is a jail guard, and he also worked in TBS, Dutch equivalent of jail for people with severe mental health problems. It's like a, psych ward. There was this schizophrenic guy who was convinced he was a dog.
Oh.
Now, that might just sound sad and pathetic, but the guy actually bit someone in the throat and shredded his jugular. He tried to do it in jail as well, and he now has to wear a muzzle 24/7. Clarice. Not a cop, but a paramedic. The worst thing I've seen was a 3-year-old burned from the waist down in a bathtub. Here's your roasted baby. The way it happened was the mother was super pissed at the baby's father and filled the tub with very hot water and dunked the child into the water. She then tried to hide what she did by putting pajamas on the baby, which caused the fabric to stick to the burns. I almost lost my job that night because I couldn't handle the smugness that was across that bitch's face. Edit. I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but a lot of people keep asking where this happened, but I'm choosing not to say because it could be looked up. This little girl has been through hell, and I'd feel terrible putting her out there like that. You looking it up, Stripes? My dad is a police officer, and they had a scene the day before Halloween. This kid killed his mom and chopped off her head and dragged her body into the street, and he jumped in front of a train. Wow. Meanwhile, this woman walking by thought it was a Halloween prank and picked up the lady's head. When she realized it was real, she tossed it far away. So the crime scene was like 7 different places because of her and her son. How is that 7 different places? The body's in the street, the head is tossed far, and I guess the kid, broke up into like 5 different pieces? Fuck me. I know me some math. Me know me some math in the heat of the... What the fuck kind of comment is this? What, 5 guilds? Oh, buckle up, Stripes. I try so hard to give the people what they want, man. My 3rd year on the job working a housing patrol went to a domestic. Female caller on the line screaming, getting constant updates as my partner and I run up 14 flights of stairs. There's no elevator. We finally reach the door. I'm fucking gassed. My partner was a little Puerto Rican dude, great cop, weighed all of $120. He tries to boot the door and bounces off it like Wile E. Coyote. We could hear the screaming all the way down the hall, and as soon as we made it out of the stairwell, I give the door a boot. It's a steel security door with 3 deadbolts. Inside the apartment, it sounds like there's a legit WWE ladder match going on, with this howling, high-pitched, keen, and low shouting. I kick the door at least a dozen times. I'm about to puke. My partner is screaming at me, "Boot the fucking door, man. We gotta get in there." The shouting goes up in volume, and the scream goes to a shriek. Constant, unwavering. There is no shriek, just the shouting. I finally get the door busted open. There's a woman on the floor in the middle of the entryway. It looks like she fought a bear and lost. It's the first time I've seen that much blood on the ground. The floor is a slip and slide of blood. Slip and slide of blood. It's like a new Metalocalypse album. The woman is alert, mostly rocking herself back and forth. She reaches up to me as I make entry. "My boy, my baby boy." She just repeats it over and over. The male half rounds the corner and comes bullying at me. The fight is on. He has a meat fork in his hand. I don't even have time to draw before he makes contact. He's shirtless and covered in sweat. His arms are bloody all the way up to his shoulders. He stinks of booze, not the fresh drunk stink, but the acrid, hard stench of a habitual alcoholic. He also smells of old weed and piss. My partner is literally bouncing off the walls behind me trying to get into the fight. I finally slam the dude on the ground. He's not huge, he's not even big, but he's got murder strength. I'm not a small dude, I can barely hang on to him. Imagine yourself fighting a shaved honey badger, covered in blood, piss, and sweat, in a 3-foot wide hallway, on the floor, covered in sex lube. This motherfucker. My partner finally gets into the fight, gets jabbed several times with a meat fork. Ugh. My partner's nickname was Dr. Pepper. Nigga, this story getting ridiculous. He starts yelling, "Spray, spray, spray," while I'm trying to clobber the shit out of the dude with my MacLeod. My partner dumps a whole can on this dude and also on me. I've been sprayed so many times before, times by him, that I'm almost used to it. I don't remember a whole lot after that except hearing "my gun." I do remember seeing the dude's right arm coming out, and I see the pistol. There are a lot of gunshots. I don't know how many were mine. Epilogue: the female victim had 47 stab wounds. She survived. Although she incurred debilitating injuries, my partner was stabbed with the meat fork 3 times, twice in the right thigh and once in the right forearm. He also suffered a gunshot wound to the throat.
Oh?
Recovered and retired last year after 20 years on the job. I took several stabs, the worst of which being my right hand and right shoulder. I still have permanent damage and loss of motor function. The suspect lived, although he is now confined to a wheelchair and uses a colostomy bag. The 4-year-old boy who was thrown out of the window while I was trying to kick the door down didn't survive. I'm still on the street. The incident was the first of the worst. I dream about them every night, edited. I get caught up in reliving this event as the images translate themselves to words, and my brain works faster than my fingers, resulting in errors. I also, being a writer of some poor renown, cannot also allow to remain. Thus the meat fork has been edited to meat fork. Shut up, nigga. We get it. But holy fuck me in the monkey balls.
How do you survive a gunshot to the throat?
Luck. Or depending on your beliefs, divine intervention. Destiny, man. Top comment here says, "My dad is currently sitting right by me. He has 20 years active patrol duty and then 7 as sheriff. Well, one time we got a call from a guy saying his girlfriend broke his dick. Obviously, we were skeptical, so we go along with the ambulance and fire to their house and walk in to his girlfriend sobbing and shaking in the corner. We walk into the bedroom, and let me tell you, dicks might not be able to break, But this was a very broken dick. Turns out, he had gotten drunk and she wanted to hop on his dick by jumping from the top of their headboard onto him. You know, this is why drinking, you know, come on. One person drink. Or don't get blackout drunk. Don't get let's get ridiculously acrobatic and combine it with sex drunk. Stupid. Yeah, it didn't work. She bent his dick in half. By the time we got there, it had turned black, and people and that the bottom part was swelled, but the top part was flopping. I felt bad for the guy. The other one was a call from a woman saying Mr. XYZ is 90 years old and we haven't seen them in 7 weeks. Can you perform a wellness check? This was in the middle of August after a couple streaks of 100-degree weather. No. So me and the rich, his partner, go over there. Lo and behold, no visible AC unit in this 100-year-old house. So we load up our noses with Vicks and open the door. Yup, Vicks didn't help. The house was well over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This lady basically melted into a sludgy mess with some human feature still visible on her couch. The vapor her body was giving off was on the windows like condensation. Rich and I both threw up and called the coroner, who basically had to remove the lady with her couch cushions. It was bad. 7 weeks to call for a wellness check? Jesus Christ. Stripes, what you gotta understand is when a person like is left to decay, you know what I mean, in a room, and it's like muggy and it's hot and they're melting, because at this point it's like essentially 100-degree weather. Anybody being sent into that room is essentially inhaling a dead person. Are you down with that? Am I making it worse? My bad. Listen, viewers, you know, this was a fucking journey. You know how much of the shit I just read? How long is this video even? Probably over 30 minutes. Who's listening to me for 30 minutes?
Wait. Someone responded with something.
Wait, where? To the top one?
Responded with their own, yeah.
To this one? Yeah, poor lady didn't have any family or anything? Wait, what were you thinking? What were you talking about?
Sorry, I guess I saw something.
Man, this one killed me. I don't even think these videos are more like podcasts at this point. I hope you guys like these, or this one. This one was particularly edgy, so I'm sure somebody dug it. Somebody really dug it. How much did you dig it? Did you dig it enough to buy me Doom? I'm kidding. I love you.
I'll buy you Doom.
You don't tease me. Don't tease me. Don't even know who Cobblepot from DC
That's what
Comics
aliens
is.
do, Kyle.
Hey, how do you know that you're an alien? Oh, you can see my... I'm not supposed to show her my bookmarks. Guys, I will catch you guys later. Oh, remember Kyle. Kyle.